You're listening to WCTN.
May we make a suggestion? Take your phone off the hook. Somebody might call during the next hour or so and interrupt your fun.
Get it down. $1 million.
Bigger guests, bigger audio. You're listening to the West Coast Truth with Russell Scott, Season 4.
Andrea, give us an idea of who you are and your background in your education.
My education when I was a student has been of philosophy and engineering. And I began when I was 23 years old to design and produce plant to make energy with biomasses like organic waste, etc., etc. And I grew up making plants to make energy and to try to resolve the problem of air pollution. I got patents in this field. And so basically I grew up engineering plants to make air pollution control and biomass operated power plants. And so this is basically my background. And I started to work with the low energy nuclear reactions, a definition that I prefer very much to the definition called fusion, because I think is more proper to call this kind of effects LENR. And I started working on them in 1990 after the famous press conference of Fleischmann and Pons. I started trying to reproduce their effect. I have not been able to, but the spark had ignited the fire at that point, and the fire is going on, and after many years of work, we got some result.
Well, you're an inventor, you're an entrepreneur, and you haven't just invented the ECAT, you also invented a process to convert organic waste into oil. How was that experience?
That experience has been good and bad. Good at the beginning, because we made a refinery that was working very well. Then it is gone badly, and I got a tremendous series of problems from that. I am not. I would like to say that how this story is gone is resumed quite well in a website that I made for this purpose, which is www.ingandrearossi.com. ingandrearossi.com. Because the situation has been very complex, and since many times happens that some hostile party takes out the big troubles that I got in those years. It has been a period between the 1990 and the 1999, 2000. During those 10 years, I had tremendous problems. All this story has been resumed in the particulars in that website, And, since now I am making this job, I am not very, very happy to be, to revive what I passed in that period. So, in any case, to make short the story, that those were the years during which a criminal organization in Italy decided to enter in the business of waste. They had to kill some way, one way or the other, any kind of competitor. They assassinated my character, making actions that made me go on the newspapers for crimes that I have never committed, never made. At the end, I have been cleared. In the meantime, the factory that I had set up is gone bankruptcy. And this is the story.
Was it not Gomorrah that took over the...
Exactly. If you read Gomorrah, you understand perfectly who are my enemies. And
yes, these are people that dump waste cans into the ocean.
Yes, exactly. You consider that the waste that I treated when I had Petrol Dragon were the kind of waste that after my elimination have been taken from the heroes that you can read about on the very good book of Saviano. So this is the situation. I am not very happy to talk about this because I lost the work of 3 generations of my family in that area, but I survived, and I have been put in prison for years for crimes that I never have committed. And at the end, I have been cleared, made free. During this time, I have prepared a very good base for the work on the low energy nuclear reactions. And so at the end, maybe God wanted this happen just to make this possible, who knows? Because if I had Petrol Dragon, I would not have made this work. So from this perspective, I remember the old Indian saying that says, when something bad happens to you, don't be sure it is bad, and when something good happens to you, don't be sure it is good.
So it's interesting that they accused you of dumping environmental toxins when your enemies are in fact the ones who dump toxins into the Mediterranean.
Exactly, because the trick has been this. I had a refinery where I had the oil made and the raw material to make the oil derived from waste. And one day they arrived and, there was very much corruption. So many authorities were corrupted. And they arrived and said that my job was not regular because since my oil was derived from waste, it had to be considered a waste. And so my customers would have the necessity to be authorized to treat waste. Of course, my customers just bought oil, not waste. And so everything has been stopped, blocked. At that point, when they blocked the sales, they accused me to do something that was not possible to be sold. At that point, they said, if it is not possible to sell your oil, this means that it is a waste. And so you have put a clandestine deposit of waste in your factory. But they were not waste. I could not sell them because they forbidden the sale, saying that my customers to use my oil had to have permissions that did not exist. And so this has been a nightmare. So,
Does not water go through a water treatment process? By their logic, drinking tap water is a toxic substance.
Yeah, it is what happened because the system that has been used when they destroyed our company, the wastes have been put in real clandestine dumps, and they polluted the tap water, etc., etc., etc. But
And I mean, Petrol Dragon, you are producing 20 tons of oil a day.
Yes, it is true. Oil which was sold to customers that used it, and they were very, very glad because it was very cheap. It costed half the price of the usual oil. And they were glad, but one day the authorities have stopped their factories too, saying you are using a product that is derived from waste, then it is a waste. So you have to have the authorization of a company that makes waste treatment. Of course, they were not. And this is why all has been stopped, etc., etc. You will find all the particulars in that www.ingandrearossi.com. So let's go ahead with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Andrea, what is your motivation for creating alternative energies? Is it for the science? Is it for financial gain? What is your motivation?
My motivation is that I believe in this work. I always worked in alternative energies because since I was young, I thought that this was going to be the problem, the basic problem to resolve for the survival of mankind. So I focused on this, and when Fleischmann and Pons made their press conference, I was very attracted from that. They have a merit, independently from how is going their process under the technological point of view, but they have the merit that they have indicated to us a path through a jungle that was possible to go through. Then we have taken a completely different system to go through that jungle of problems, but probably if did they not exist, probably I could not have the idea to go ahead with this kind of technology. This is a merit that must be recognized to them.
Well, we'll go through the science of Fleischmann and Pons' discoveries a little bit later. Here's the major question. There's the million-dollar question. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, this is the first law of thermodynamics, then how can the ECAT produce free energy? As I understand, you can turn 400 watts into 15,000 watts with the ECAT. This is my ultimate question, but what is the basic science behind low-energy nuclear reactions?
This is a very good question, but I wanted to answer first to the first part of your question. You mean the first principle of thermodynamics and the second principle of thermodynamics, and which can be resumed in the said nothing can be created, nothing can be destroyed. But the concept is much wider than how this correct principle can be considered, because you have the possibility to apply this principle to the thermochemical reactions, and in this case you have to respect the rules of the thermochemical reactions. But if you apply this principle to the nuclear reactions, In this case, this principle is valid, nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, but matter is turned into energy. To turn matter into energy is not to create something from nothing, is to make a conversion. In this case, you respect the principle that nothing can be created and nothing can be destroyed. It is exactly why nothing can be destroyed that when you eliminate matter, you don't destroy it, but you just turn it into energy. So this is the answer to the first part of your question. Let me say you this very simple equation. 1 gram of mass, it doesn't matter which kind of mass, any kind of mass. 1 kind of mass, when turned into energy, produces 23,000 megawatt hours, or if you prefer, 23 millions of kilowatt hours. If you think to this, if 1 gram is 23 millions of kilowatt hours, you can calculate, if you want, how much mass decrease you have if you produce 10, 20 or 100 kilowatt hours. You consume millions of grams. You consume picograms. And this is exactly what happens. In our reactors, we put our charge is about 50 grams of matter, but in 6 months before changing the refill, we consume a very, very, very small amount, because you consider, if we go through simple numbers, if I make 10 kilowatt hours per day, I make 240 kilowatt hours, if I make 10 kilowatt hours per hour, I will make 240 kilowatt hours per day. 240 kilowatt hours per day is 2400 kilowatt hours, 2400 kWh per 10 days, which means 75 kilowatt hours per month, 75 1,000 kilowatt hour means 75 megawatt per month, which means 750 megawatts per 10 months. Now think, 1 gram, so let's say 1,000 megawatts per year. Since 1 gram makes 23,000 megawatt hours, this means that with 1 gram of matter, an ECAT can produce 10 kilowatt hour per hour per 23 years.
So this means that the ECAT will need to be charged after a certain period of time?
Which recharge every 6 months, because we prefer to control the charges, etc. But again, with 1 gram you can go ahead 23 years. We change the refill every 6 months. But so this explains, I am just answering with numbers to your preliminary question.
We're going to take a break, Andrea, and we'll be back in 2 minutes with today's guest, Andrea Rossi.
And now, world-famous BBC investigative reporter, Greg Palast.
Deepwater Horizon blows up. It's a big accident. BP, they're the guys with the green gas stations. They're against global warming. Blah blah. They're basically full of shit. They're monsters. And what happened was that the Deepwater Horizon, we get a cable right after it blows up. Bad Penny gets a cable from the Caspian Sea. A guy floating out there on the other side of the planet.
The Greg Palast interview with Russell Scott.
Sorry, my ex was calling me.
Coming soon.
What is the basic science behind low-energy nuclear reactions?
Well, this is a very difficult question.
You have as much time as you need to answer the question. So go ahead.
Yes. Inside the nuclei of the atoms, there are particles, there are protons, neutrons, and there are many other things that are what they are due to a particular quantistic situation. And now it is not easy to explain simply what this does mean. So maybe I will say stupidities, but I have to make it very simple, I suppose.
As best you can.
Yes, I will do what I can, but consider that I will say things that, to be very simple, are also explained in a way that is very superficial and therefore necessarily not correct. But just to give an idea, the nuclei of atoms are a bunch of small grains of different things. Some of these things are things that we say respect the exclusion principle. So they cannot exist in the same time, in the same moment, in the same place. Other things can exist in the same time, in the same position, in the same place. The first ones are called fermions, the last ones are called bosons, because Fermi has discovered the first ones and Bose, an Indian physicist, has discovered the second. But in this bunch of grains, every particle is what it is because it has a particular, let me say, I would say, character. A character which depends from the amount of energy that is able to make up. When these particles are displaced or change the energy amount, some agent, some external agent makes them change their energetic production, they change nature. Because basically when they change their quantistic status, which means when they change the way they produce energy and the amount of energy that they produce, they change nature. They become something different. For example, they become gamma rays, for example. They are turned into a form of energy which is called photons, and these are the gamma rays. So what happens, for example, inside, for what I can say, what happens inside any car? Happens this, that we force the proton, the nucleus of the atom of hydrogen, which is a proton, to enter at very high pressures, concentrating, focusing all his mass in extremely small, on an extremely small surface. Now, listen carefully. The pressure is a force that depends not only on the mass that makes the pressure, but also on the width of the surface upon which this mass focuses its weight. So you can reach very high values of pressure, not without necessity to increase the mass, but you can do it reducing the surface upon which the mass of the object focuses its mass. This way we force the atoms that are in the surrounding of the hydrogen inside the microcaves of the nickel grains. We force that we reduce the surface upon which they focus the pressure, the starting pressure, so that the starting pressure that can be, for example, 1 pound per square inch. No, let me say enough, just enough. It is not 1 pound per inch, but just to say, pick up a number. I pick up 1 pound per 1 psi, 1 pound per square inch. If instead of the pressure, instead of distributing its action upon 1 square inch, focuses on a decreasing surface up to 1 square nanometer, at that point the value of the pressure increases exponentially. At this point happens that these balls, these grains, go so close that their quantistic status can change and they can emit gamma rays. All right. I have not understood what I said, but I hope you have understood better than me what I said.
I doubt that I understand better than you, but would it be fair to say that cold fusion is essentially muon catalyzed fusion?
No.
It's not the same. Okay.
No, no, because muon are particles with a life too short to do something and are very difficult to produce. No, in my view, because I must honestly tell you that there are many different theories. We have taken our theory out of the experience of our working cats, and I got quite a precise idea about the theoretical basis of this effect. This is an effect.
Basically. Sorry, did you just say that you don't really understand it?
No, I say the contrary.
Okay.
I say that. No, I say that. Sorry, this is my English. It is not you, it is me. And we made up a very precise idea about the source of the effect, and it has nothing to do with the virtual particles. It is something much more solid.
I'd like to go through some of the methods that have been used in the past to produce low-energy nuclear reactions. And may as well start with Fleischmann and Pons, when they used an electrolysis of D2O.
Deuterium oxide, yes. It is the heavy water. Deuterium. It has been, deuterium exists in nature. I don't remember exactly how much, but the 0 point something of the sea water is heavy water, is deuterium. In fact, D2O is also extracted by distillation from the sea water. It is one of the systems to produce it. And now probably they have also other systems, but during the Second World War, the heavy water was if I am not wrong, was extracted from the seawater. So you probably also, there is some D2O also in the water that you drink every day. Of course, in traces, but it is just water made. It is always H2. Basically, D2O is still H2O because H means hydrogen, and the deuterium is hydrogen. Is an isotope of hydrogen that instead having only one proton and one electron dancing around, it has one proton, one neutron attached to it, and the same electron dancing around. This makes it, of course, heavier, exactly twice, slightly more than twice, because neutron is slightly heavier than the proton, but basically deuterium has a weight, an atomic weight, that is double of protium. What we usually call hydrogen is protium. So basically both are hydrogen. So D2O is still H2O, but the H, instead of being protium, which is the common hydrogen without a neutron, is deuterium, because it contains a neutron. Du comes from Latin D, which means 2, and because it weighs 2 instead of 1.
By the way, the answer is 0.0156% of all naturally occurring
Yes.
hydrogen.
Yes.
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 So just to quickly go through, well, we can spend some time on it. What are your thoughts on these different methods used to produce the low-energy nuclear reaction? So starting with the Fleischmann-Pons, as opposed to fused salt, proton conduction, low-energy ions, ion bombardment.
You are asking me about the science of Fleischmann and Pons.
Well, many people have claimed to produce energy using cold fusion methods.
Cold fusion method. Sorry, I don't understand methods. What is this word? I don't understand it.
Methods?
Methods. Okay. So the method. Okay. The original method which has been used by Fleischmann and Pons, as you correctly said, was an electrolysis. Basically, you had a cathode made by palladium, an anode made by platinum, and you know that palladium is a metal that has a very high affinity for hydrogen, is a kind of a sponge of hydrogen, and probably everybody knows that an anode is an electrode charged with negative electricity, so that charging an electrode made of palladium with negative electricity, you combine the fact that the palladium is a sponge with very high affinity for hydrogen with the fact that hydrogen is positive once stripped of the electron, because the proton is positive, and even if there is a neutron in the case of deuterium, the charge is still positive because the neutron is neutral, and so the deuterium core was strongly attracted to the palladium electrode, while the duty of the anode in the opposite side was the one being positive to attract the electrons and the oxygen to make free the protons bound to neutrons to go in the sponge of palladium. This is the principle of course, in the D2O, in the water, in the heavy water of the bath of the electrolysis, some electrolyte has been put to facilitate the reaction. If I am not wrong, some some sort of ammonia has been put. I don't remember exactly which one. During their experiments, they have found that the concentration of hydrogen has been so tight that a very strong excess of heat has been produced, and so this has allowed to the two scientists to think that a fusion had occurred between the deuterium nucleons forming helium, because when two protons bind in a nucleus, we have the atom with the atomic number 2, which is helium.
Have you replicated flexion and pulse?
I tried, but I have not been able to. And I tried many times, but I have not been able to. But at that point, I was convinced that if that method was very difficult to replicate, there had to be another method. And I started my research that is going on until we arrived to make an apparatus that worked seriously, because at a certain point we obtained not watts that are always doubtful things, but kilowatts that allow to have a more precise idea of the real production.
Now, there are many other methods in which people use to fuse the deuterium. Again, fuse salt, protein conduction, low energy ions, ion bombardment, gas reactions. Are you able to tell us what process you use to fuse the deuterium, or is that proprietary?
Actually, I do not use at all deuterium. I don't use deuterium. Our process is completely different. We have abandoned deuterium because at a certain point I got the conviction that it could not work, and for many reasons, very much complicated.
Yeah.
But I prefer to use just protium, so the very common hydrogen. And I must tell you that we do not use we do no more inject hydrogen gas in the cat. We have invented and patented a tablet with a molecule that has the property to attract a big amount of hydrogen in a solid form. So at that point, we in the charge where we put the nickel, we use nickel, and we use this tablet, and we use catalyzers that until the patent is not granted, we cannot make, we cannot publish, but basically in our charge you have nickel, catalyzers, and you have these micro tablets that contain a high amount of hydrogen. And this tablet is made in a way such that when we raise the temperature by an electric resistance, the hydrogen is made free from the tablets and becomes gas. At that point we work on the pressure, as I said before, and we get the effect of low energy gamma rays in emission. When the operation is turned off, the hydrogen is the free hydrogen, and in gaseous state is recaptured from the sponge, which reacts with the hydrogen, getting it again. And of course, we lose only those atoms of hydrogen that are turned into something else. This is basically what we make. So we do not use at all deuterium, we do not use hydrogen in gaseous state at the beginning of the process, and we do not make any kind of electrolysis because my sensation has been, and I am convinced of this, that in any case, even if palladium is a strong sponge for hydrogen, has a strong affinity for hydrogen, but in any case, electrolysis is too weak force to obtain a result. Maybe I am wrong, because I know that very good scientists in the world are still working on electrolysis. Maybe in future they will make something useful, but so far they did not.
Fleischmann and Pond's device required the PD cathode to be charged for a month. Is it true that the ECAT can be started in real time?
Yes, it is true. It is true, but the way it works is completely different. We do not make an electrolysis. We turn on an electric resistance that activates the reactor, raising the temperature, pressures, etc. And it takes for the ECAT to be turned on, to be activated, takes about 1 hour. And after 1 hour, it is perfectly in equilibrium. As I said before, it is not an electrolysis. It is a dry reaction, and is a reaction between hydrogen and metal and catalyzers, and absolutely not in an electrolytic field. We do not use at all palladium. We absolutely do not use the principle of the palladium capture of hydrogen in an electrolytic field.
Is this why you can theoretically produce them for such a low cost?
Yes, because yes, the ECAT is made with very common materials, mm-hmm. and now we are manufacturing, preparing a completely robotized production line to make extremely economic the makeup. So basically we will put in the market the ECATs, a 10 kilowatt power ECAT at a price that will be between $600 and $900.
Does it store energy?
What do you mean?
Is it AC? Is it AC or DC? Does it store energy like a battery?
It is no. We work with AC. The resistance that drives the ECAT is an AC resistance, and of course consider that what we are producing now is just thermal power. Mm-hmm. Because to produce electric power, we have to we still have to resolve technical problems that I think we will resolve within a year or so.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing to acknowledge. The ECAT at this time produces heat. Heat is a form of energy, but the trick here, of course, is to convert the heat into a usable form of energy.
Yes, it's correct. The heat is in itself, of course, heat also is a usable form of energy, because maybe you are in California, in areas where it is always warm, but if you go to Boston in winter, you understand that also heat is a form of energy that is usable. And to produce heat at a price which is much cheaper than normal is useful. But you are right. when you say that it is extremely important that we also resolve the problems that we have now to convert heat into electric energy. The reason why, because of course this is your next logic question, the reason why we have difficulty in producing electricity is that we cannot heat up the cats beyond, for now, beyond a limit of 120 degrees when we produce the steam. We are not able to produce steam at a temperature over 120 Celsius degrees, not Fahrenheit, Celsius, which is about 240 Fahrenheit, I suppose, or something like that, 240 to 50 Fahrenheit. And we cannot go beyond this limit now because the production becomes unstable. And but we already have made strong progress, and for the industrial plants, for the big plants, we are already arrived to 200 and something Celsius. So we are close to 251 Celsius, which is about 550 Fahrenheit, which is the inferior limit to apply a turbine and make a Carnot cycle producing electricity with an efficiency around 30%, which is acceptable. And for the small ones, the situation is much more difficult. It will take more time.
Rossi, how do you propose to turn heat into electrical energy for the ECAT?
This is a good question. This is a key question right now. We want to arrive to raise the temperature of the steam that we produce up to the level of 251 Celsius, because at this level we can use standard turbines made by Siemens, with which the steam rotating the wheels of the turbine moves the alternator and produces electric energy. And this will be the main path that we will go through in the industrial field. And for what concerns the domestic small plants, it is much more difficult because the Carnot cycle is very complex. It needs condensers, it needs a circuit of pumps. It's very complicated, and it's very difficult to miniaturize in a domestic plant. So we are trying to find other conversion systems. There are many. There is the Rankine cycle, there is the Stirling engine system, there is the thermoelectric possibility, there is the direct conversion this is a very interesting line of research, the direct conversion of gamma rays into electricity, or we will be able to miniaturize the Carnot cycle. There are many paths, and we are going through all of them.
Andrea, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Andrea Rossi. What is your opinion on the current state of science?
You mean in general?
In general, yes.
In general. Well, science in general, it is a very complex. It is very complex to answer. We must make many distinctions. Science in general is developing tremendously and exponentially. In some, we have seen things that have revolutionized the world. The high tech, think to the computers, to the software, to the IT technology. Things to the medicine, Today, the life expectancy of mankind is raised in the so-called developed countries. The life expectation is in the 90s, while 50 years ago it was in the 70s. And so a tremendous development has been made there, but there are fields in which science has got some bump in the road. So in general, science is developing well. There is one thing that I think has to be set up better: the utilization of science. It is not just a matter of science, but is a matter of integration of science development in the necessity to improve the quality of life of mankind and the safety of mankind. I think that this integration needs to be worked about because, for example, for me is very difficult to understand how it is possible that there are billions of people in the world that live in conditions to die for a lack of food. And so if we have a science hyper-developed somewhere, and we have people that dies for hunger at 10 hours of distance of aeroplane, means that science has problems, I think.
Do you think the science of cold fusion, of low energy nuclear reactions is being suppressed? Is there a conspiracy against you?
No, no, I don't. If there are conspiracies, they have to be proven by evidence. I have no evidence of it. There is no conspiracy at all. Less than ever against me. No conspiracy at all. I am working very well, and I am making very well my work, and of course you have to accept that, and this is a physics law, when a system, a consolidated system is changed, some Colombian force you have to deal with. Some resistance is the obvious consequence of a technological revolution, and this is not a conspiracy, this is normal. The fact that low energy nuclear reactions up to now, since 1989, has not been put on the market did not depend on a conspiracy. It did depend on the fact that no valid products have been put in the market. If you put a product that works in the market, there is no conspiracy that can bind you. People buy it.
Have you ever had concerns for your safety, your personal safety? Many feel that Gene Malov was murdered by big oil.
In God I trust. That's a matter for God, not for me. I have to work and to do my duty. That's it.
Do you believe in free energy?
What do you mean when you say free energy?
Can energy be free?
In nature, my friend, in nature do not exist free meals. Remember, free does not exist. Free does not exist. Competition exists. You know, anything that you do costs. Because anything you do needs work. Anything you make needs raw material. You know, even if you breathe, you consume oxygen. So nothing is free. If for free you mean a balance of matter, it is impossible. It is against the laws of the nature, because anything you do consumes something. There is nothing that happens in physics, in chemistry, in whenever you want. Even in fantasy, when you produce something with your fantasy, you consume sugars, because without sugars your brain could not work. So even dreams are not free. So it is a nonsense to say. While if for free you mean under an economic point of view, so no price, given for no price, well, this is a political choice. It's not something that can be given by nature or by mankind, or by physical laws, or forcing the chemistry and physics to get something free. Is an economical choice. If a government wants that people has free houses to get more votes, okay, that's free. But that's a political choice. Is not a thing that exists in nature.
How do you roll out this product in a responsible way? We see incredible amounts of corruption. We talked about this earlier. How do you shield the ECAT technology from big oil, corrupt politicians, corporate interests, so that the consumers, so that humanity can best benefit from this hopeful technology?
This is a good question. Well, first of all, I want to put apart any fantasy about, as I said before, about ploys to obstaculate me, etc. Which you know, there is competition. But your question is serious, yes, this technology can be very useful, and we are working in a direction that will not accept to sell this technology to a unique entity that can put it in a compartment. This will not be our policy. And this will be one shield to what you say. About the fact that at some point maybe something is maturing now, but if something will try to resist and to compete without respecting the rules of the fair competition, we will have to fight. How, you say, how we will fight? I don't know, because first I want to see the battlefield, then I want to see who are the enemies, and then I can see how I can fight.
So you're saying you'll take each battle step by step?
Exactly. Also because you think to what happened, for example, with the cars. When the first cars have been produced at the end of the 19th century, people laughed when they saw the cars, and everybody said, well, but how can they go through meadows, parks, forests, how can but you know, brick by brick, step by step, ways and then highways have been built and the cars have been developed. And you know, if a product, I think that if you manufacture something that is useful and competitive, people is the real judge and people is the real engine that decides what is useful and what it is not. Think to the beginnings of the computer. The guru of the computers, when the kids, Bill Gates and Allen went to the banks to say what they wanted to do, they laughed and said to think that the common man, the layman can have a computer is ridiculous. So things, what has been that has made the tremendous development of computers? People.
Mm-hmm. And we stand on the shoulders of giants, don't we? Who's your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration, I did not understand the words that you said before, biggest inspiration.
What scientist or who inspired you? Who is your...
Now I can understand perfectly, yes. Sorry for the phone. Who inspired me? Well, I must say that for sure, the thing that I studied mostly when I was in the years when you had to learn has been the relativity of Einstein. And I have put it in combination with the phenomenology of Husserl, Edmund Husserl, which is a particular philosophy that teaches that you have never to accept a thing the way it is commonly intended to be, but you always have to make epoche, which means to start from the starting point that everything is wrong and has to be changed before accepting it, and so make a strong analysis about the reality and the things as they are presented to you before accepting that. And I have found a strong bind between these two things. By the way, this has been these have been the lectures that mostly have inspired me.
Andrea Rossi will take our final break, and we're going to talk about the ECAT that people will see in their homes, hopefully within the next few years. So we'll be back one last time with Andrea Rossi.
On the next episode of The West Coast Truth with Russell Scott.
So we're working on growing our own food. I have a project in the works now in the next couple of years where we can finish these earthships, and we want to plant some orchards, look at some permaculture technology so that we can mitigate labor in growing our food. We're looking at animals to help us with the labor. Pigs, for example, are really good at tilling gardens in the spring and the fall. We're working this spring. We're going to be building a greenhouse that uses the same kind of technology as the earthship, where we can grow food all year round, even in northern Alberta.
The West Coast Truth with Russell Scott.
I want to talk about the unit itself, the one that hopefully will find itself one day on store shelves that people can go out and simply purchase, not unlike they purchased the microwave whenever that came out. And much like the microwave, people probably won't understand the science behind it. But what they will understand is what can it do for me. If people can save money, if people can lower their energy costs, which we know are on the rise, then the product will be successful.
You are absolutely correct.
So what kind of product should people expect? What is the ECAT going to look like? What's the size of the unit? Things of this nature.
Absolutely understood, yes. The first generation of the ECAT, which should hit the market within 1 year and a half, between 1 year and 1 year and a half, depending on the time that the certificator will take before giving us the safety certifications. The product will be, think to a small box, which is about 12 inches long, 12 inches wide, and 4 inches high. And this box has a weight of about, say, 15 pounds. And this will be put very close to any existing heater of any house. And you know that the heaters of the houses or of the factories and so on have a line of water that enters, that goes inside, and the line of water that goes outside to go to the radiators, etc. The ECAT the exit line, instead of going to the radiator, will enter in the ECAT. The ECAT will heat up the water, and then the water will go to the radiator. The sensors of the heaters that you already have will realize that the water is hot, and then will save fuel, will stop the output of fuel, so you will save the fuel. And the ECAT, basically, the philosophy of the ECAT has been the same of the Microsoft processing systems that can be put in any computer existing in the world. Here is the same. You can put the ECAT attached to any kind of existing heater with a very simple attachment. And you just save money because you save fuel, which means that you save money. And the design has been made nice, and that's it. And of course, you will, everything, an electronic system will make automatically all the controls, and it will be possible to turn on and off it also by telephone or by your cell phone with a system that is normally used today for modern heating systems. That's it.
So this can be used as a central system in a home?
Yes.
Okay, so people, much in the same manner as they do now, they simply plug something into the wall. Will that will be the same way? And as far as the infrastructure, that leads to the ECAT in the utility room.
Exactly.
Again, let me bring this back. Is this unit going to be for heat or for electrical energy?
This will be only for heat. The first generation will be only for heat, but it will be fit to be extended to the electric generator once we will be ready to supply also the electric generators.
Okay.
And the price, again, the price of the ECAT will be between $600 and $1,000, say. And again, it will not be a substitution for the normal heaters. It will be an attachment to any existing heater.
How much could the average American household expect to save with one of the first generation ECATs?
This depends on the geographic area, because it depends on how many heat consumes. Of course, if you live in Boston, you consume much more heat than if you live in Miami Beach. But the average, it is not to say an average, because in the United States the climatic situation is very different place from place. But I can say that in Boston you can pay back an ECAT in matter of 1 year. In Miami Beach, there is another option that will be possible, because with the heat you can also make air conditioned, and with a heat pump. We are studying the application of a heat pump to make air conditioned with the ECAT. So at this point we can make the ECAT useful also in the heat month, and also in areas where heating is not a big issue, like for example, I said Miami Beach, but just as an example, but there are many places like that. If you also use this for the production of air conditioned, the payback of an ECAT mediumly is between 1 year and 2 years. So basically, it will make people save around $1,000 per year, as an average.
Is the first generation ECAT patented?
Yes, we have a patent pending. We have many patents actually pending, because we have patented many different things. But yes, we have a patent pending in the US and a patent pending in Europe, and a granted patent that has already been accepted definitely regularly in Italy, while in the US and in Europe we have many patents pending, and very important ones.
So then my understanding is that the first generation ECAT is solved. There are no more issues with that. It works. It's ready for production within a very short period of time. But the second generation ECAT still requires more research.
You are absolutely correct.
How are you going to overcome the public fears of a device that uses nuclear technology? I mean, the average person, when you use the word nuclear, recoils instantly. They're scared of it. This is, of course, due to propaganda, but they're instantly going to think of Fukushima, science fiction movies. How do you change the perception of the public? How do you overcome their fears of nuclear energy?
This is a very good question that you have posed. This is a very good question. This will be a matter of communication. It will be necessary, but you know, I have an infinite trust in the smartness, in the intelligence of people. People is not stupid, and they understand perfectly. They will understand in matter of minutes, not of days, the difference that passes between something that uses radioactive materials and something that uses nickel and hydrogen. And they will understand shortly, I think, that the amount of energy that is inside an ECAT is in front of the energy of a nuclear power plant is as a flea against a whale, but fundamentally we do not use radioactive material, we do not produce radioactive material, etc., etc. The problem is that to understand these things, a smart person will take a few minutes, and I have absolute and total trust in the intelligence of people. Of course, there will be also a duty for us to make a correct communication, and there is a situation that we can that we have to resolve, that is the certification. The ICAT will be certificated when it will be sold. The certification is focused exclusively on the safety issue. So once a product is certificated, properly certificated, there are the basis to make a correct certification, communication. And this is what I think will resolve the problem, that there will be the mouth communication. Anyway, the issue that you have touched is very important. I bet on the intelligence of people.
Now, when we talk about the ECAT, we're talking about energy on the level of a single home. How big can this be? At what scale can this reach? Can we heat entire cities using this technology?
Yes, and in a very safe way. Because our big plants are just assemblies of the modular small ECATs put in series and parallels. So that if the risk of a module is 0, if you put 1,000 modules, you have 0 times 1,000, which is still 0. And I also want to tell you one thing which is very important about the safety. We have, which the certificators have understood very well, we have an intrinsic safety in this toy, because it works only if nickel is in powder. It can work only if you have powder of nickel, not bars of nickel. And inside the core of nickel, where we start the production of heat, in the very core, we have a temperature which is very close to the melting point of nickel. If we have an overheating of the ECAT, the temperature goes to the melting point of nickel. If the nickel melts, it is no more powder, because it becomes a liquid. And at this point, the operation of the ECAT immediately is stopped, because there is no more raw material. It's like if you take off the gas from the tank of a car. It stops in the precise second when no more gas arrives to the engine. And this is the intrinsic safety system of the ECAT.
Where do you rank low energy nuclear reaction technology in comparison to solar power, wind power, nuclear energy, the conventional forms of energy now, and some of the alternative ones? Where do we rank with your technology?
Well, I think that it is very difficult to answer to this, because we did not yet hit the mass market, and it is very difficult. What I think is that it is not much a matter of rank, but it is a matter of integration. I think that all the energy sources have to be integrated. We have not to...
I want to clarify my question. When I say ranking, I guess I'm asking you, I'm asking about efficiency. We don't want to be wasting, we don't want to waste our time with things like wind or solar if they're not as productive, if they're not as efficient as cold fusion or low energy nuclear reaction technology. So the question, I suppose, is where does it rank in that sense compared to the other technologies?
I understand. Sorry, yes, now I understand. Well, the rank is the answer in this case is very simple. All the other energy sources are chemical reactions. This is an effect that turns matter into energy. So, when I tell you that 1 gram of matter makes 23,000 megawatt hours, the issue of efficiency is over.
Where can people learn more about your technology, more about yourself?
Well, I think that the more simple website is www.ecat.com.
So you have many websites. I've seen that, and of course we'll link over.
www.ecat.com is, I think, the more clear for what concerns the ECAT as a product. If somebody wants to participate, I usually talk in the blog of the Journal of Nuclear Physics, which is www.journal-of-nuclear-physics.com. And there there is the login, and log in the blog, and there I discuss and I talk with the people about what is going on daily. And I think these are the two main, but there are many of them. And again, if somebody wants to know the story of the troubles, there is www.ingandrearossi.com. That's it.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you today that you would like to tell the audience?
I would say no, because you have made a very fruitful and well done interview. Really, I think that it is perfect as it is.
Andrea Rossi, it's been an honor to have you on the program.
This has been my honor to be here with you and with your public, your audience. I am very glad to have made this talk. Thank you very much.